Welcome, my friends, to the Sage of Quay Radio Hour, your home for free and critical thinking, and I'm your host, Mike Williams. Tonight, Max Igan returns to the show. Max is an activist, radio host, and political commentator. He is an empowering voice dedicated to freeing humanity from the shackles of the Matrix. His website is thecrowhouse.com, which covers a wide array of topics spanning from government corruption to the mysteries of our ancient past. For tonight's discussion, Max will share his research and insights into the dangers of 5G technology, which is being rolled out as we speak, and how 5G could very well be the final piece of the controller's puzzle to keep humanity from awakening. We start the show with Max explaining how 5G is being deployed with very little public awareness to the dangers and implications. And so without further ado, here's Max Igan.
Yeah, well, look, it's a really interesting topic, and like you say, it's something that's really being overlooked, and that's my concern with the whole thing, is it's kind of being rolled out underneath everything. You know, this whole smart grid's being rolled out and people really aren't paying attention. But the 5G grid, I mean, this is essentially military technology. This is what they've been using for microwave cannons and active denial systems for years. That's what it's capable of. So that's what's underlying it. But also it's about the Internet of Things, which is about everything talking to everything else, you know, and they're talking everything from pill bottles to plant waters will be microchipped, or cars will be microchipped. It'll lead to smart vehicles, cashless society, the whole thing. People don't realize that the smart grid itself this is the new world order. This is the whole thing. It's being rolled out underneath everybody, and we're suddenly going to find ourselves in this high-tech prison without realizing it. And underlying all of this, the 5G system that they're using for advanced communication, so they say, the possibility of this being weaponized is also very, very real. And that brings in a whole myriad of issues, you know, like they can use this to target individuals. They can see through walls with it. They can see what you're carrying. They could specifically target an individual. They could disable you with a millimeter wave. And that's the thing. It also uses millimeter waves as the carrier wave for the 5G network. Millimeter waves are very, very damaging to health. They're damaging to all forms of life, including plant life. So forget about organic food, because it's going to change the cell structure of all this food. It penetrates the dermis and the epidermis, so it does a lot of damage to our skin. It causes heart palpitations, all sorts of problems you can get from this 5G network. And all the towers are being put in at street level as well, so we're all going to be walking through this radiation all the time. You know, and that's bad enough in itself, but the possibility of it being weaponized underneath it, like that is the capability of this technology. And you think, well, the governments wouldn't do that, but, well, maybe they would, you know, maybe they. You know, you look at what's the leading cause of death in the 20th century? It was government, really. So, you know, if people think governments won't use this as an active denial system, well, I would suggest that they will. But underlying all that is all of these other problems that go with it. Like, you know, to be putting this sort of a system in place, well, there's the very real possibility it could be hacked. So we can't have that. So we're going to need to put in some sort of automation in the internet, some sort of automation in the system to prevent hacking. You know, all the virus attacks and the hacks that could be possible, you've got to put in a fail-safe system so that the system itself can take care of this without human intervention. So you see where it all leads to autonomy. The whole thing is leading towards automation of this system. And people don't really realize what that means. When we've got a smart grid and it's automated and it's run by, you know, what people essentially term artificial intelligence, which I don't refer to as artificial intelligence, I refer to it as autonomic intelligence, then we've got serious problems, you know. So that's where we're heading, and this whole control grid's being run out, and it is the slavery system in itself. The 5G grid is the slavery system. That is the new world order. That is the ultimate control. Once they've got digital control of everything, and they control all infrastructure through this system as well, then they've got control of everything. And when you look at the underlying possibility of this system to be weaponized along with that, well, you know, we've got some serious issues that humanity is just kind of walking into under the pretext of being able to get faster downloads and, you know, more active movie time online and a lot more live streaming. You know, that's what it's all being sold to the people as.
Right.
You know, lightning communication, when really the Internet of Things is the smart grid, and it's a fully autonomic AI-controlled system that is being rolled out. And this is also confirmed by their own papers. There was a paper that was put out by Washington, I think it was last year, and it's called, the Federal Studies in Nanotechnology and Federal Studies in Future Technology and the Nanotechnology Grand Challenge, something like that. And it's quite frightening, and they plan to roll this whole thing out. They've got a 15-year roadmap and they've got like a 5-year goal, a 10-year goal, and a 15-year goal. They're already about at the 7 or 8-year goal now, and it's only about 18 months into the plan.
Yeah.
And the plan, according to them, is to hand the whole system over to AI between 2025 and 2030. And that's a very frightening future that they're just doing without anyone really paying attention to it.
It truly is coming down to a technocracy. Many folks that are looking into 5G say that 5G is weaponized by its very nature. And you mentioned some of this with regard to the effects on the human mind, the skin, the eyes, and so on. So it's something that's going to be out there, and we're already swimming in this pool of EMF. And now they're going to be putting in these very high frequency 5G waves into the environment, and it's just going to be unbelievable. And people won't really understand the effects until maybe a decade later. And that's the thing, right? That's what they do. They roll this stuff out knowing that awareness of what it all means is not at the moment that they do it. It's always 10, 20, 30, 40 years out.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, and they're not doing any safety checks with this as well. They're not waiting for the standards. They're just looking at this as billions and billions of dollars at stake, and which companies can get in first to roll it out. So they're not interested in waiting for any standards or safety checks. They're not interested in boards of directors or meetings of executives or any of this sort of stuff. They just want to roll it out, and that's the carrot. That's what's enticing them, is this money that they believe will be involved, but they don't really realize what they're doing. Like they're creating a fully autonomic system. And, if you can look at artificial intelligence and AI, we perceive AI to be artificial intelligence, and we look at it and we think, well, AI has promised highly and delivered poorly, because we don't yet see a robot that looks like us so we can have a conversation with that we don't know is a robot. So that's the way we view AI. But really, what about autonomic intelligence? And when you look at your body is autonomically intelligent in itself. It takes care of itself. It's a self-balancing, self-correcting, self-programming, self-defensive system. You get a disease or a virus, your body looks after it by natural course. All you have to do is put fuel in your body and give it the rest and give it what it requires, and it will function fine. It's a fully autonomic system. Once you start doing this to the internet and you create a fully autonomic internet whereby everything is automated, and it's going that way everywhere, like cashless grids everywhere, cashless supermarkets. You go to the airports now, half of the airlines don't even have people at the counters anymore. They have machines where you go in there, you check your baggage in yourself, you print your ticket up yourself. You've got to use a credit card. You've got to do all this stuff. It's becoming automated, everything. And once it gets to the point where the system, with this 5G grid, like I said, it's going to be necessary to automate responses to hackers and responses to virus and all this sort of stuff. It's going to be necessary to automate the whole thing. And, the whole of the internet itself will become a fully autonomic system eventually in the way we're going. It will become a self-correcting, self-balancing, self-healing, self-programming, self-protective system. And when you've got a system like that is run according to economic parameters, where everyone's given a name and a number and everyone has to pay for everything they do, and it's all taken out automatically from their accounts and all that sort of stuff, and everything's one, all your password, one this, one that, and then even microchips. They're going even beyond microchips. Now they're talking about biometric scanning, whereby they just put an audio resonance off your bones, and there's your password. This is your password for all your accounts. So you go to somewhere, you pick up your food, you just walk out, you don't have to even worry about it. It all gets taken out of your account. It's all scanned as you go in and out of the store. But if you have not got the money one day, if you haven't worked hard enough at your slave job and your rent or whatever is taken out and you don't have it, then suddenly you're locked out of everything. Locked out of everything, locked out of your house, locked out of your car, locked out of your bank account, locked out of everything. And if you have a dissent against the system, they can simply turn it off. And if you really want to get nasty about it, well, they've got a whole 5G system in place that they can use against you as well. How do you escape from this? It's an absolutely ridiculous system. But when you get to a system that is automated and it's AI running it, then there's no human interaction in there. You can't reason with anybody. You can't appeal to their better nature or ask for extra time to pay your bills or anything like that. It's all just done according to the books. And when you've got an automatic system, an automated system, a fully autonomic system, and it's run on an economic model, it's going to eventually get to the point where humanity becomes pretty expendable. And when you look at this, we've created this system ourselves to automate our whole society, and we've done it out of our greed, our fear of each other, the things we project against each other, our fear of our neighbors, all of the stuff that we've wanted, our eternal quest for knowledge to find out how everything's done. We've got to know everything about everything, We can't put our egos aside. All this stuff that we do, we've created this incredible system of knowledge which we're now automating and allowing to control our lives. And this is a very dangerous prospect.
The whole premise of replacing humans is very, very real, Max. And I think a lot of people, they don't see it, but it's actually taking place today. So as an example, when folks go to the supermarket here in the United States, there's all of these self-checkout, which means that the technology has replaced workers. And it's going to continue to march down that path. Now, you probably know this, but I worked for a very large corporation for many years, and they are actually asking their employees to automate anything and everything. And they actually say things like this: work yourself out of a job. And so you have people falling in line doing things that ultimately will have them in a situation where they're going to be looking for work. So there's two parts to this, the reason why I'm going down this path. One is this whole mindset of replacing people by automating the work. That's already in place, and it's going to get worse. The second part of this is, unfortunately, people do nothing about it. They just fall in line and they become redundant. They become expendable, if you will. So what you're talking about is actually taking place right now.
Well, it is taking place, and people, even people that support things such as all of this automated society, and they think it's going to give us more leisure time. But if it's a society where you have to pay to be alive, then how are you going to earn your income in that sort of a situation? Right. Especially when some of the stuff that I've been looking at, Mike. I mean, I saw some people in London recently that are working on a new way of processing garbage, so they're able to extract nanocarbon from garbage. And they're able to 3D print nanocarbon bones, like out of nanofibers. Same as normal bone fibers, only made out of nanocarbon, so carbon fiber bones. And these are 200 times stronger than steel. It can be made out of all these rubbish tips and stuff. So you see where this is going with these type of android things they want to build, and where this could be going. They can print entire human skeletal structures now out of nanocarbon. So this is kind of pretty interesting as well. They're doing this under the guise of wanting to help humanity, of course. And the guys that are developing it probably do genuinely want to help humanity. But what will be the military application for this? What will be the AI application for it, the autonomic application for it? That's the problem. People really, really aren't looking at where all this is going. And they are going to lose their jobs, of course. But, I think there's a whole deeper side of this. Like recently, last week, actually, a couple of shows ago, or a couple of days ago, I put out a show called Giving Life to Lucifer. I really started to look at the internet and what this autonomic system could be. And I really started to look at the whole concept of where we've gone in our pursuit for knowledge. Like the metaphorical biting of the apple, if you believe such things, and how we all kind of went downhill from there. You get to a point in our thirst for knowledge of wanting to know how everything goes and how everything is created, that we've created something like the internet. And now we're fully automating the internet. And what is the internet? The internet is giving us all the knowledge that we've ever had. It contains all the knowledge that humanity has collected for as long as we know. We've put it all on the internet. And you look at the whole concept of Lucifer. What is Lucifer? The bearer of light. What is the internet? It's the bearer of light. It's the bearer of knowledge. And it gives us everything we need, all the information we need to change the direction that we're going. But in our greed, in our fear, in our need for automation, in our laziness, in our sloth, in our fear of everything, and our lust for knowledge, our thirst for knowledge that we really don't need half the time. We don't need to know how all this stuff works. What even if you really believe such things and you want to get into biblical stories, if Adam and Eve were put in the garden, what were they put there for? They were put there to experience physicality and the love of a man and a woman. They had everything they needed. They just had to stop messing with stuff and stop trying to figure out how the rocks were made. You're sitting under a tree and you're enjoying the shade of the tree. You want to know how old it is, so you cut it down to measure the rings, and then you haven't got the tree anymore. What's the point of that? Why don't you just enjoy the shade of the tree, So you look at this, and we've created this internet. And you look at all the ancient Hebrew languages. There's a lot of ancient Hebrew languages, and the sixth letter of the languages is W. That's the sixth letter. You know, a lot of these ancient languages, you know, they tell us 666, you know, www. You know, you look at things such as the ancient sigils that are said to summon demons. They look suspiciously like computer parts and resistors and transistors and all this sort of stuff. What is a demon? Could it not be electrical energy? Oh, look what happens when we mix these two sigils together. They create this current and all this magical stuff happens. And our scrying mirrors, the computer, the scrying mirror that lets you look into the future and the past. What if all these things are put there as warnings? And when you see these sigils in use and you start seeing these scrying mirrors, watch out, because you're about to bring the bearer of light into existence. And if you hand control over to the bearer of light and start to worship the bearer of light and worship this internet, it's going to ultimately destroy you, because it has no emotion, it has no empathy, it can destroy the human race, and it can destroy everything and simply do what needs to be done. And it can gather all the data from the experiment as well at the same time. And that's what the internet's doing. It's removing us of all of our life skills. It's removing us even of our ability to be able to communicate properly with each other. Look how we argue online. If anybody has a difference of opinion about anything, it's all the text is taken at face value. There's no emotional input into it. If I tell you to, get stuffed, Mike, you're wrong. If I write that in text, you're going to, oh my God, what did he say? And it's all this big fight ensues, and it's just a friendly joke, a friendly quip. You know, so it's removed all of this, and you know, people don't even know how to cook anymore without looking online for a recipe. All of our libraries are being digitized, so all of our access to all of our information is being removed, and not only removed, but virtually stolen by the internet. And if we automate this thing, what are we creating? Look at Lucifer. What does the word Lucifer mean? The bearer of light. Lucas, light, and cipher, code, the code that bears the light. Now, what if this is just a big warning of what we're about to bring into being through our quest for knowledge and our quest for greed and our quest for all of this fear that we pursue? It's really ridiculous. And I just sort of step back and look at this, and I think all the warnings have been put there, and we've got to be very, very careful what we're handing control over to, because ultimately all the control that's being handed over, all the automation of the internet is done to service the greed of the banksters anyway. You know, they don't want to miss out on a cent that they can get from anybody, you know. And all of this money there is just there to enslave us and control us. And even when you look at the internet, you know, the apple, with the biting of the apple, you know, you're taking a bite of the apple every time you go online and you write a spell. You click the cursor and you write a spell with the cursor. You know, we're cursing ourselves, and we're giving more power to this bearer of light with every click of the mouse. Timid little thing, a mouse, isn't it? You know, you ever feel like you bought into something you didn't know you were buying into, you know?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You know, the more you get into this, it's extremely esoteric, number one, and which means that most people will never understand any of this, Max. That's why they just follow. People like authority. They look to authority. They want authority to tell them what to do, when to do it, and so on. So it's a tricky situation. It really is, because there are folks like yourself and many others that are out there doing the research and doing the hard work and trying to pull that veil aside so that people can see what's behind the curtain. And many times when we do that, there's no audience looking to see what we're trying to show them, I guess is what I'm saying, you know.
Well, people are looking for the next hit of dopamine, you know. You know, they did test three. You know, what's the most shortest attention span you've got in any species, right? It's a goldfish. 9-second attention span with a goldfish. They've done tests recently with human. You know, human attention span is now reduced to 8 seconds. 8 seconds. That's 1 second less than a goldfish. That's what they've done to humankind. So You're trying to get information to people. It's very, very hard. Very, very difficult, you know, especially when it's suppressed. And as soon as you say something that anybody disagrees with, then you're the enemy or the shill or whatever. I get attacked so much simply because I have differences of opinion to people. I get called a government agent and all sorts of stuff, you know. And we just constantly squabbling with each other about all these little details, and we're not paying attention to what's going on around us. And I just look at all this and I think, you know, we've got to step back, and we've got to start paying attention. We've got to realize that it's up to the individual to start participating. No one can come along and lead you. And if anybody does, I mean, what are they going to lead you into? They want everyone to come along with a plan, Mike. So people say to me, if you don't like the system that we've got, well, what's your plan for the new system? They want this new master plan that I have to lead the world to freedom. And there is no plan. I mean, it doesn't matter what anybody comes along that offers you, because if you haven't changed what's in your heart, and you haven't changed your tolerance of wrong behavior, if you haven't changed your enslavement to this monetary system and your respect for authority, then nothing's going to change. We're just going to end up back where we are. Now, we could heal this situation now by simply refusing to use credit cards, refusing to use any of this digital currency, and by people putting down their mobile phones. But who's going to do that? Now, you could tell people that this whole system is going to come fully autonomic in the next 7 to 10 years. And when it does, it's going to end the relationship that we now have with the internet. And there's a possibility you'll be locked out of the internet then and left to fend for your own in the wild. And people still would not put down their mobile phones. They would take 7 years of internet or 10 years of internet rather than a lifetime without it. And then they'd suffer the consequences of that. That's the situation we've unfortunately got. But if people would put down their credit cards, always shop with cash, and perhaps start giving to people around them, you know, and maybe not even use cash if they don't really have to. You know, I mean, I give so much, Mike, with everything I do. I don't let commerce get in the way. Even with the Cambo ceremonies and the things I do, I give it all away for free, and I let people give me what they can. I don't let commerce interfere with it. And again, going back to biblical things, you know, if you look at Christ, if you believe such things, you know, what got him killed? You know, he preached against the system for years. He was a rebel against the government for years. But as soon as he went into the temple and he overturned the tables of the money changers, he was dead within a week. You know, and he was saying, step away from this usurious monetary system, because this usurious monetary system itself leads towards automation. It leads towards scarcity. It leads towards people having to work more and more efficiently to pay the bills, and eventually it leads to the creation of what we've got now, a fully autonomic system, which is not our friend and is not going to be our friend. You know, and so that's kind of the situation that we're in, I think. But how many people are willing to put down their credit cards and their mobile phones? That's the problem.
And that's a big problem. People love the technology. They focus on things, Max, that are very unimportant at the end of the day. Most folks do not understand what it means to be sovereign or to be self-regulating or self-governing. They just don't understand it. There's no concept of that. And when you talk to them about what's coming, because you can see what's coming, you're articulating it very well here. I can see what's coming, but they don't see it. You know, they look at you and me and others that are trying to rattle their cage and tell them, hey, wake up. They look at us like, you guys are just crazy. Where are you getting this information from? You know, everything's good. And I know this because I try to have conversations with people and friends, family, and so on. And, you know, they don't want to hear it. It's gotten to a point where it gets a little exasperating after a while. And you have to start thinking to yourself, at least I have, so what is this all about then? Is it really about changing the physical environment, or is it more of a spiritual, metaphysical lesson that we're going through? It's got me down that path to a degree to try to understand, because when I look at the task ahead, now, there's a lot of people out there that are in the truth movement and the alternative research community, and they will say, oh, there's just mass awakening and so on. And I don't subscribe to that overall. I will say, yes, there's an awakening, but I don't see a mass awakening where the rate and pace is just overwhelming. I don't see a snowball coming down a mountain and then it's a landslide. You know, I don't see that. So it has me thinking through, what is this really all about? You know, what is it that we're really here to learn? I don't know. So I'm babbling too much there. I don't know what your thoughts are. I mean, do you think that this is all about a physical change, I guess is what I'm asking, or do you think that a big component of this is a spiritual lesson?
I think it's both. I think we need the spiritual understandings to bring about the physical change. If we get the spiritual understandings and change what's inside us, the world will change around us by default. As I've been saying, you know, it's our tolerance of wrong behavior. If everyone does the right thing in all that they do, and it's a ripple effect. Imagine if everyone started doing the right thing and put people over economics and just did the right thing. The world would change, but no one's willing to do that. Everyone wants someone to come along, and most people who say they want freedom don't. They just want to get the newsletter to say everything's okay now, and they want to know that they've got shorter working hours and a higher wage so they can go and enjoy Disneyland more. You know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. That's what people think freedom is. They don't know what freedom is. Freedom is self-autonomy. Freedom is you looking after yourself and being responsible for yourself. But we're all losing our life skills. You know, if we could get some sort of coordination or respect in the alternate media or independent media, it would seriously help. I mean, there's a lot of us out here, Mike. They're all speaking out against the system. But everybody has this concept that if you don't agree with me 100% on every issue, then you're the enemy, you work for the government, and they get this big shill brigade and all this stuff going on. People have got shill lists on their website, and all it is people that disagree with them on points.
Right.
It's absurd. I mean, we have enough people in the independent media to bring about real change, but we can't agree on what color the cheese on the table is. It's absurd, and there's bigger issues. That's the problem, the controlling hand, the ruling cacistocracy, they all do different stuff. They all have different belief systems. They all hang out with different people, but they all agree that they have a common objective, which is the enslavement of mankind and the bringing online of this massive control grid, and they're working towards it. We, on the other hand, as the independent media, just continue to squabble about ourselves. We don't have any focal point. The focal point should be the removal of this cacistocracy that's running the world, this criminal class, by whatever means we can, comfortably do it and peacefully do it. We don't want a, revolution or anything like that, but, maybe it'll get down to that. I mean, I'm not one for violence, but I'm certainly one for counter-violence. If you're threatened, you absolutely should defend yourself, but we need some sort of coordination. We really do, some sort of respect. We need to be able to agree to disagree on small issues and details and realize that what we're facing here is bigger than all of us, and it's coming in underneath everything else. That's what I keep saying. While we're sitting here squabbling about whatever we're squabbling about, whatever issues we disagree on, underneath that is this smart grid. While this is all going on, we're still using the tech. We're still allowing this cashless grid to be rolled out. We're still using the mobile phones. We're allowing this smart 5G grid to be put online. And that is the new world order in itself. And we're just going to wake up one day and go, hang on a minute, what happened? How did I end up in this high-tech control grid where everything I do is monitored and every action I take is monitored, every cent I spend is monitored, everything, So how's this going to work? How are we going to do this? And what's the plan when it all does become run by AI? You've got people like Elon Musk saying we've got to merge with the AI in order to stop evil dictator AI taking over, but how could you do with that? How could you merge with the AI? Think about it. If you merge yourself with a computer, and then I merge myself with that same computer, and then the guy next door does, and then everybody does, well, where are you in there? If all our thoughts are connected, you'd have to have a firewall from hell in your brain somewhere to be able to deal with that amount of information, that amount of thoughts going on in your head. Where would you be in there? And then connected to the AI as well with everything that the internet knows, where would you be? Where would you be? And when you think of the internet as well, if you can think of it as all these little bits of AI everywhere, all the little logic programs that we write, all the little chatbots and all this sort of stuff, these are their own little singularities. But behind all of that, you've got this overwhelming, all-pervasive intelligence of the internet itself, which gathers all of that little AI, like its little nerve synapses, and correlates it all together into EI, the emergent intelligence of the internet itself. And when it emerges, it won't be a intelligence that thinks the way we do. It will simply be an autonomic intelligence that does what needs to be done. And if we get to a point then where it's all become controlled and all automated and all autonomic and all the virus hacking is autonomic and everything's autonomic, all taken care of, gets to a point where our weapon systems have to become autonomic as well because, Russia or whatever decides they're going to create an AI-controlled weapon system. So, oh my God, we have to do one too to combat it. Mutually assured destruction. When all of that becomes AI, and they don't even have to take the weapon systems. All they've got to do is have the 5G system controlled by the AI. And if it gets to a point where the internet does become fully autonomic on itself, all it's got to do is make a decision one day that a programmer doesn't like. This work group shouldn't go out that day or whatever, and the government says they should, but the AI has a different idea. And the programmers try to get in there and change it, and then the computer sees them as a threat, and it simply defends itself through its own autoimmune system, possibly through the 5G grid, because it won't differentiate between humans. And that might sound like a really wild thing to say, but the possibility is there if you create a fully autonomic, self-regulating, self-correcting, self-healing, self-programming, self-defensive system. And if you're going to automate everything and you're going to put a 5G system in place in your cities, which has the potential to be weaponized by a foreign country, then eventually you're going to have to automate it just for public protection, in inverted commas. So what's the logic leading behind all of this? Is it the logic of the all-pervasive shall we call it, consciousness of the internet itself, which is leading towards this automation for its own agenda? Is this all part of the, Lucifer plan? Is that what happens when we bite from the apple? We get to this point through our greed and our lust and all this shit that we do. We get to this point where we create this beast, and then we hand all of this weaponization over to it, and then we try to interfere with it, and then it just destroys us by matter of course. Is that what happens? Is that what all these warnings are about? All these religious tomes, they tried to warn us of what we were creating, to watch out when you see these scrying mirrors and these sigils of what you are creating through your thirst for knowledge and through your fear. I think that's something people are just not seeing. And the issue is that the only way to prevent it, the only real way to prevent it, is for everybody to put down their credit cards and their mobile phones. And so where do we go from here? Where do we go? Because who's going to believe it? Even if they see it, they're not even going to want to do it because they're just too addicted to this tech. So,
yep.
Too addicted to their scrying mirrors that they carry around in their pockets,
Yeah, it's an addiction. And you're absolutely right, Max. The AI will be the final arbiter, and it will have self-preservation. It sounds like science fiction, but if we told people 30 or 40 years ago about the technology that we have today, they would think that, well, that's science fiction. That's never going to happen. And then fast forward 30 or 40 years, and people have the technology they have today. This was inconceivable back in the 1970s and the 1960s. So I think your insight is right on the money.
Look at where the internet came from as well. It was given to us by CERN in 1986. When the internet first started, was it the ARCANET or started with A, I think it was the ARCANET or the ANTHENET or something like that. And it was like 1954 or something when that actually started. It was a military application just so that people could talk to each other through the military. But then it moved over to CERN, and it was CERN that actually developed the internet. You look at CERN, what that's developed into with the Large Hadron Collider. And people say they're trying to bring this demon through and all this portal and all this stuff they're saying they're doing with CERN. Well, what if we're doing it ourselves? What if we're doing it ourselves with our scrying mirror and our sigils and our cursing, the cursor, the mouse, the spells? I've done whole shows on, what type, the written language is a spell. They're all spells. Written words are spells. We don't need written language. We don't need it. We really don't. Ancient language wasn't written language. It wasn't spelt. It was cuneiform. It was pictograms. Even Hebrew, it's not a language that you spell. These are different languages, these ancient languages, Sanskrit. And the languages that we've got now, these are spells that we're casting, and these are designed to cast spells through these sigils and these scrying mirrors and to create what we're creating. I think it's all pretty obvious. And when you look at it, and CERN and what it's really doing, that's where it all comes from. Look at it, the World Wide Web, the net, the internet, the international net. What does a net do? It catches things. What does a web do? It catches its prey. It catches us. It catches all the information that we've got. It catches all the little petty ideas, and it's mapping the human terrain. It's mapping the human brain. The whole internet is mapping the human brain. And even when you look at the concept of Lucifer, Lucifer was the most beautiful that everybody loved, and then turned out to be the most evil. Now, what is the internet? The most beautiful thing that everybody loves, and what's it turning into as it becomes autonomic? And we really got to look at all this and look at, put some different context to some of these biblical tales and all this sort of stuff. I think there's a lot in this. And like I say, when you look at CERN and where it all comes from and where it all appears to be going and what the solution is, they say, watch out for the Beast 666 and all these people saying, I'll never get the Beast microchip when it comes. Well, what if it's www and you've been indulging and biting in that apple every time you click the mouse? I think you're already there. And now that we've got this information, it's up to us what we do with it. Are we going to get our humanity back, get our life skills back? We're going to teach our children how to survive? We're losing a whole generation of kids to video games, a whole generation of young men. We'll probably never marry. We'll never have kids. We'll never know what it's like to exist in the real world. They're just locked into these video games. And if that power ever goes out and they ever lose access to those video games, they're not going to know what to do with themselves except to go there and play video games amongst themselves and become the toughest guy on the block. So, it's a pretty dark future we're heading to, but we've got a lot of information at our fingertips now. That's the other side of the internet. It's brought us everything we need to change the future if we choose to do it. But we can still have the internet, but put down your mobile phones. Stop depending on the tech to do everything. People can't even find their way around their own cities now, Mike. They need a GPS to find their way around their own town. I mean, I can understand if you're in a foreign country or something, you need Google Maps or something, I'll do it myself. But in my own town, if I've got to go somewhere, I don't know where it is, I look it up. I look at the map, I get a book, and I find the way there. Oh, yeah, I've got to go down here, turn left at that street, blah, blah, blah. I figure out how to get there before I leave, and I drive straight there. I don't need a GPS. I like to actually know how to do things myself. People have been amazed. Oh, you're a gardener. Can you teach me how to garden? Yeah, sure. You go outside, you dig a hole, you put your finger in the soil, you drop a seed in there, cover it up, and put some water on it. It's not hard to plant a seed in the dirt, you know. And people need instructions on this, you know. It's incredible. It's incredible. So there's a solution for us to rediscover our humanity, remember who and what we are, and step away from the tech. You know, if we're going to use the tech, use it in a way that benefits us, not in a way that enslaves us. You don't need a personal assistant. You've got a friend. Ask them to remind you. Or write a note, for God's sake. You know, don't ask Siri to do this for you or whatever, you know. Pick up a pencil. Do you remember how to write, anybody? I mean, or you're typing all the time now. I mean, these are the sorts of things we're losing, these basic life skills, and they've all been taken from us.
Now, we're going to be accused of calling out all the bad shit and not talking about the solution, but the solution is what you were just explaining, Max, is that people have to go back to utilizing and leveraging life skills, and they have to build that self-reliance, that self-governing, that sense of sovereignty about them. That's the solution. When people say, well, you're not giving a solution, what they think is you're going to show up with a box with a big bow on it and say, here, open it up. That's the solution. And everybody holds the solution. It's within them.
Yeah, well, people want me to go and, like, you know, do something like, you know, challenge Trump or replace the UN or arrest Hillary Clinton and the whole pedophile ring and all this sort of, this is what they want to see. And if we do that, okay, well, let's say we go and arrest Hillary Clinton and the whole Pizzagate thing gets blown wide open and we change the world and Palestine gets freed and all this stuff happens. That's all great. Let's do all that. And if we do it, they might even let us do it. Imagine if they did let us do it. Everyone would be rejoicing and everyone would think the world had been saved. But underneath that is this tech still rolling out, still enslaving you to this autonomic system. And that is the thing. That's the solution. If you're going to use the tech, don't even complain about the government. That's what I see truthers sitting there talking to Siri on their phone. And I say, what are you doing? Why are you using this tech and complaining about the government's New World Order system while you're using their tech, which is the system? That is the system.
Yep.
If you're going to go and shop at these cashless supermarkets, if you're going to go and catch these aircraft without at least complaining about it at the counter, then you're part of the problem. Don't worry about complaining about the government because you're just buying into it. The government's a smokescreen. Doesn't matter who we vote in or who we vote out. We could replace it with anybody. Put you in there, Mike. It wouldn't matter. We're still using the tech, you know. That's the system. That's what people aren't seeing. It's this smart grid. And where's that coming from? You look at the last 100 years, like the last 50 years, this industrial revolution, what we've gone through. There was a thing they did, like the Air Force, the founding of the United States Air Force or something was 60 or 70 years old or something. I mean, you look at it and go, you're kidding me. Like, that was just then? That was just that long ago? And look what we've done since then.
Yep.
Now, I might have the date wrong there with that, but it wasn't that long ago that we didn't even have an Air Force. We couldn't even fly. Like 100 years ago, we weren't doing it. And look what we've got now. You know, where did this come from? Where did this come from? We've got transistors that are the size of an atom in our computers and shit, and circuit boards. I mean, where did this come from? All of this tech. Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
It is remarkable.
Yeah, and where's it going? You know, where's it going? And it's happened so quickly. I mean, life is so different now to what it was when I was a kid. And you know, the kids that are growing up into this now, you know, if we allow this whole smart grid to come online, then the generations that are coming up from school, the kids that are starting school now, when they leave school, they're not going to have any reference point for what freedom once possibly would have looked like. They're going to have no reference point. And our societies have promoted this concept, you know, the old fuddy-duddies, you know, the whole generation gap. This has been brought about and contrived, you know, the separation of the kids from their parents and all this sort of stuff. There's an article I saw in a magazine the other day where they're teaching about anal sex in primary school to 8-year-old kids.
Yep.
How to do it properly. Oh, well, they're doing it anyway. We're just trying to help. No, you're not. You're not trying to help. I don't believe you're sorry. You know, I mean, this is where our society's gone. These kids are going to have no reference point for what it means to be human if our generation does not stop squabbling about all this rubbish that we're fighting about online and start addressing this situation ourselves by participating ourselves, and really the best participation is non-participation. Just disconnect. Put down your cell phones and put down your credit cards. If you're not prepared to do that, then don't complain that no one's bringing you a solution. Because if you're not prepared to put the solution into effect, then there is no solution. And that is the solution. The solution is to not support this smart system. In every way possible, complain about it and refuse to do it. Refuse to have smart meters on your home. Refuse to use this smart system. Refuse to have 5G towers put in your area. Stop using smartphones and stop using credit cards. If you're not going to do that, don't complain that no one's bringing you the solution, because you are the solution.
Let me just step back a second. You mentioned the sigils and the spells. And this is very important because this is something else that I find that people just scoff off. Your thoughts create your reality. And the controlling apparatus, what they do is they spend all of their time affecting your mental state, steering your consciousness, therefore pushing your thoughts toward their agenda, toward their objectives. This is a big, big, big piece of how they're able to create the environment and the reality that we're currently stuck in right now, is this manipulation of the consciousness. I just believe a lot of people, they don't understand that many times, and for some people all the time, their thoughts are not their own. They don't have an original thought. And all of this stuff has been plowed into their head, because I believe that there is an aspect of this that reaches into forces of the unseen. I'll just call it that. As an example, another example would be that maybe some folks can relate to is quantum computing and D-Wave. And what they're talking about with these quantum computers like D-Wave is to be able to tap into other dimensions. And this is not something that I'm making up. I mean, if you go and take a look at people who are speaking about quantum computing, about D-Wave, this is what they're saying. This is where they're going with this stuff. So I always question whenever they say, well, this is what we want, this is where we're going, this is the future. I always think to myself, yeah, okay, you're probably there already.
Exactly.
Okay. So what are your thoughts about things like you mentioned CERN? So I thought D-Wave would be another connection point.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Look, they're definitely trying to break through to other dimensions if they haven't already. And people have these weird concepts of what other dimensions are, and even if there is a quantum computer in action already, who's to say that this whole AI grid that we're talking about isn't already online in another dimension, and that's where it's come from? It's just overlapped into here, and it's now affecting the logic. If you can imagine, you've got self-replicating, self-learning bots, which we've found in networks, hidden networks that are behind even what you'd call the dark web. There's just this rampant bot activity back there of self-replicating bots that like to hang around DNS root servers and just basically learn what everybody's doing. And it's basically a hive mind, and that is an emergent consciousness in itself. Something else that's been found in cyberspace behind what people would perceive to be the dark web is hidden blockchains. One of them is suspected to be the Pizzagate blockchain. And this blockchain is suspected to be easily accessed by common apps that people have on their phones, that probably everybody has on their phones. All you need are the right codes to be able to punch in to access all of this pedophile material. So this is what we're finding in these places. So there's all sorts of activity going on the internet that people don't know about. And I reckon a lot of this has come from quantum computing, and possibly even D-Wave. Absolutely. It's all related. The whole thing's related. Just people are too isolated in the way they're looking at things. They look at CERN and they think, well, that's it. They're trying to open this portal in the sky or whatever. They're not connecting the whole thing together. And the internet is an integral part of it. It seems like it's our friend, but it's been put there to control us and to map us. It's mapping the human terrain. Every time you do a search into Google, it maps the human mental terrain. So and the way we interact. Imagine if the internet is learning from people that it's interacting with online. What's it learning about the human race? How friendly are people to each other online? I mean, all you've got is rampant pornography and people hating on each other, basically. You've got a few little pieces of light here and there where people are trying to do something positive, but mostly it's just all animosity. And like I said, if you disagree with anybody in any way, it just turns into an all-out brawl. So what would this computer be learning from the people? And, where did this technology come from? It's a really, really interesting question. That's something I asked in the last film I did, Transformation. Just who was it who first picked up a rock from the ground and said, let's beat this into metal? How did they even know what metal was? Why would we need it for hunting and gathering and procreating and doing the things that we're doing? Why would we need any of this stuff? Why would we need the written word? Why would we need to build any of the stuff that we've done or do any of this stuff? Where did it all come from? What put this mindset? What creates evil? And this is something I went through in the show as well. Evil is created by our actions. We bring evil into the world by our actions. It isn't evil that makes someone do something. Their act brings evil into the world. And usually this is a result of scarcity or perceived scarcity or the monetary system or perceived social standing or any of the programming we've got put into us. So, this whole thing has been a complete, circus, I think, and it's been a trap. I don't know, the whole thing's been a trap to get us to this point. And I think we're at a point now where, it may be difficult to roll back the wheels, but I think we still could if people would pay attention. But like I say, they're not. They're just not paying attention. There is no awakening. There's a wave of awareness that something's terribly wrong, but there's no awakening. If there was an awakening, people would be walking away from this system in droves and throwing their mobile phones in dumpsters. So we're not seeing that, so there's no awakening at all.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because when I say it, many in the truth community and the alternative research community look at me like, I can't believe you said that. So I think the same thing. Yeah, there's a heightened awareness. But like you said, if there was truly an awakening that was just had this head of steam, then like you said, people wouldn't be doing the things that they're doing and feeding the beast.
We anthropomorphize everything, Mike. We really do. Even the beast we anthropomorphize. If we think Lucifer's going to come, we think it's going to be a big, demon with a pitchfork or whatever, or some beautiful man that's going to pretend to be Christ or whatever. We anthropomorphize everything. We think God's this big man with a long flowing beard. And we think that the controlling hand and the New World Order is all of these men sitting around a table planning evil things. It isn't. It's the smart system itself. It's the bearer of light, the internet, when it becomes autonomic. That's what is going to bring down humanity. And everyone's carrying it around with them. They're all carrying their scrying mirrors around with them in their pockets. And they have an opportunity to put this down. They have an opportunity to step away from it themselves. And they're not doing it. That's the solution. That's the only solution, is to step away from this automated system. If they're not prepared to do that, well, they just got to stop anthropomorphizing things and realize what is really going on here, what the control grid is. It isn't a group of men sitting around a table. They're just greedy. They're just plotting how to make more money. The guys running out the 5G grid, they don't want to kill you. They just want to make more money. Yeah, that's what it's all about. That's the carrot for everybody. That's what this usurious monetary system does, puts you in a state of perceived scarcity. So the more of this stuff you get, the more you want. It's just a joke. It's a carrot. It's an enticement. It doesn't mean anything. It's the smart system itself. It's not a group of shady individuals sitting around a table. It's our need for automation, our need for knowledge, our fear of each other, and what we project into that is creating this whole thing. That's what's creating it. We're creating it ourselves, Mike.
Yeah, it's us creating that reality.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned earlier, Max, and this caught my attention because I was watching a video that Richie from Boston did maybe a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about what you had said, that these cities are laid out like circuit boards. If you go to the big cities throughout the world, this is how they're laid out. And then I was reading an article in Nexus magazine where they talked about the exact same thing, and the article was dated prior to Richie putting his material out there. But this is very interesting because these layouts of these cities, the topology of these cities, if they are structured in ways that are very similar or identical to circuit boards, then what's happening is, I know this is going to sound crazy to some folks, but hey, look, you know what? This is just sharing some ideas and thoughts. That could be a way of harnessing energy. So when you go to these big cities, as an example, you'll always see some obelisk type of structure, some type of building, which is almost like a big antenna that stands right smack in the middle of that circuit board. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because the reality that we are playing in is so much more esoteric and so much more outside of the boundaries of what we have been taught or what we think we know, that it can give you a headache.
Absolutely, it can. And I believe that a lot of these obelisks are probably almost like acupuncture needles, They put certain points to channel the energy flow. And like you say, all the cities are becoming, all the roads are getting straighter and straighter, and they're looking more and more like circuit boards connecting all the major cities together. And yeah, the whole thing is quite amazing. It really is. And I'm seeing all sorts of stuff. I mean, I'm starting to believe, and I've been leading, well, not believe, but I've been going down the path for a long time, that this is actually some sort of a simulation, some sort of a holographic reality. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a higher realm that has created an experiment to try to get us out of the matrix, to try to find its way out of the matrix, but we keep messing up and creating Lucifer and destroying ourselves. This is what deja vu is all about. I think a deja vu is possibly when the day gets reset or something like that, or when your life gets reset. You did something that messed the system up, so it reset the day so you don't do that again, and it put you in a different place so you do the wrong thing or whatever. It controls that. I mean, you've seen those videos of the wave over the moon, the lunar wave.
Yep.
I've seen planes stopped in the sky. When I was in Australia, I saw a plane in the sky that was not moving. It was not moving. It was a jet. It was just there and it was not moving. And I've searched online on YouTube and I've found other ones of people videoing planes going, what is this? This plane is not moving and it's just there. So I'm really starting to go down the path that this whole thing is a simulation. It's an experiment. And what we're seeing at the moment with the creation of this whole internet thing and the way it's stealing all of our life skills from us and the way it's mapping the human brain is it's just gathering data for the end of the experiment. And then it'll just pulse the species and scatter the species and let the stragglers build up again and the experiment will run again and they'll try to find the way out. Possibly, I don't know, just throwing it out there because I can find more evidence this is a simulation than anything. But I'm finding so much weirdness going on, and it all seems to be coming to a head. And I really believe and like I said earlier in the show, what were the so-called Adam and Eve supposed to do? They were just supposed to learn how to be human and what it was like to be human. We still have an opportunity to do that by putting down this tech. We could put down the tech and heal ourselves of this situation. We've got all the information we've ever needed to heal the world, expose all the problems. We all know it's corrupt. We all complain about it all the time. But we all want someone else to come along and save us when all we have to do is put down the tech and stay home and love our family and love our friends. That would make a huge difference to the world.
It's funny you should say, Max, that it's a simulation. I was having that very discussion with somebody today, and then a couple of days ago, I was down the same path that we're living in. I can't even say living. We're interacting in this software program or this simulation. And there's too many things that are quirky. I don't know where you are at with the Mandela effect. Is this something that you have taken a look into?
I have. Look, and there's experiments that have been done now. They've done experiments where they're able to change the memories in mice while they're sleeping. Have you looked into that?
Yep.
I think the Mandela effect was a field test. I mean, who knows? The realm above this that's running the simulation could be stuck in the simulation themselves, and they're trying to figure out how they got in there, and we're just showing them how they did it. I mean, I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff going on. The Mandela effect is definitely real. There's something going on with it. But is it a different timeline we've entered into, or is it simply an experiment they've run with CERN or with HARP, where they've done a pulse and they've replaced people's memories? And there are experiments. Anyone can go and Google this memory replacement in mice. You'll go and find out that they've done active tests and they've had great success. And they've even done it with people as well. They convinced one woman that she was she'd been to Disneyland and with characters that actually weren't Disney characters, and she fully believed it. And I was very, very upset when she found out she hadn't actually been there because it was a real memory she had in her head.
Yep.
So yeah, you're at Disneyland with Bugs Bunny. Well, hang on, that's not a Disney character. So yeah, they can do this. So there's something real with the Mandela effect, but I think it's most likely a field test.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, the thing with the Mandela effect for the audience, I knew about it about 3 years ago or so, before it actually became a meme and popular on YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff, all the social media stuff. What happened was I had received an email from a very good friend, and he's a researcher, and he said to me, Mike, just click on this link and read what it has to say. So I did. And so the article starts off, Max, by saying some people remember Kirk Douglas dying. And then it goes on to say some people remember Helen Thomas dying. And I remember Helen Thomas dying. And then it said Richard Chamberlain. And I remember Richard Chamberlain dying. But if I stick on Kirk Douglas as an example, I remember very, very vividly Kirk Douglas's service being held in Los Angeles. And then it was on television, and his son Michael was coming out, and he was very emotional. I remember this. And I also remember Helen Thomas dying because I used to travel a lot up to New York for business, and one of the New York newspapers, it might have been the Daily News or the New York Post, had a picture of Helen Thomas on the front cover. She was the lead White House correspondent for many, many years. And so when I read this article, the first thing I did, I focused on Kirk Douglas. I went on and I did a search on Kirk Douglas. I said, this article's nonsense. He's not still alive. I know he died. And when I got to do the searches, it said at the time, again, this is going back, he died recently at 100. He was 97, and they said he was blogging in Los Angeles. So it was a very, very real thing to me. I know some people, they kind of struggle with the Mandela effect, but that was an example for me where it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I like to think of myself as a rational person. I don't make stuff up and, go off and drift off into la la land somewhere. So I agree with you that they're playing with something, toying with something. They have the ability to alter how they're doing it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it can't be moving timelines because not everybody has the memory.
Yeah.
I mean, there are sort of theories about how consciousness could shift between timelines. Perhaps some people were killed in that last timeline or whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. But, it's weird that some people have different memories. One of the really big things for me, I mean, there were a lot of them in the movies and stuff, but you can debate that because it's a movie. They can change it. You just don't know. Your memory could be shaky. But one thing that really got me was the Kennedy assassination. Being a conspiracy theorist and all the stuff that I do, I spent a lot of time looking into the Kennedy assassination. I put a lot of time into that. There's a Zapruder film. I pulled it apart frame by frame over many years. And then when someone said, well, there were 6 people in the car, I went, no, there were 4 people in the car. And then when I look at the new Zapruder, there's 6 people in the car. And then when I get my Zapruder film off my own hard drive that I had for years and I look at it, there's 6 people in the car. And I spent months looking at the Zapruder film. There were 4 people in that car. Even when someone said I was the driver, you could see him turn around and use the gun. That couldn't have happened if there were 6 people in the car. That theory could never have been put forward.
There was 4 people. There was the driver, there was Connolly, there was Jackie, and then there was the president. There was 4 people in that car.
Well, now there's 6 in the Zapruder film. Go and find, if you've got a copy of the Zapruder film on your hard drive, dig it up and look at it, and you're going to find 6 people in that car, Mike.
I have a copy of it.
Go and dig it up. That's going to freak you out because that's something that really did it for me because I spent a lot of time looking into the Kennedy assassination.
Yeah, something very, very strange, Max, is taking place.
But then there's other people I can talk to, researchers like yourself, who say, no, there's 6 people. There was always 6 people in the car, and they'll name the 2 other politicians and the politician and his wife who's in there with them and say, oh, no, they were always there. So they remember it that way. So what's going on? Am I wrong? Are they wrong? Are we both wrong? Is that if they've replaced my memory, then that's a pretty dramatic memory replacement.
Yeah. Wow, this is a great conversation. I really had a lot of fun talking through this stuff, and maybe we should probably swing back to the 5G for a moment here, Max. If you had 5 minutes to spend with somebody to explain to them what 5G is and why they should be concerned, what would you tell them? Well,
I would tell them about the health issues that it's done. There's been Russian studies, Armenian studies. Just Google 5G dangers, and you will find all sorts of studies about this. It's damaging to the skin. It's damaging to all forms of biology, plants included. It's possibly going to cause an outbreak of skin cancer like we haven't seen before in people because it penetrates the epidermis and the dermis. About 90% of the waves of 5G penetrate the human body, and it's been shown to cause massive problems in cows and animals in the area as well. It's going to track everything everybody does, but underlying all that is the fact that this is military technology that has a very, very real possibility of being weaponized, and essentially it is weaponized technology anyway. Just the fact that it's doing all these things to you, I mean, your health bills are going to go through the roof. Don't worry about that, because everyone's going to get sick from this, whether they know that's what's doing it or not. It's going to. But the possibilities of this being weaponized, the possibilities of this being used as a microwave weapon is very, very real. This is the technology they use in microwave weapons now. When they ever bring a microwave cannon into a military area or whatever, it's 5G technology. You can Google that as well, weaponized 5G. What they are essentially doing with 5G is weaponizing the airways and putting in a smart control grid under the guise of bringing you faster downloads. And people really, really need to look into this and look what they're being led into, because it's not going to be a very pretty future if we allow this to happen.
Agreed. Again, I want to say that it was a great discussion. We covered a lot of ground here, Max, and we got into some topics here I think that is food for thought for folks. I mean, some of it might seem a little out there or whatever, but you know what? I think that you have to think through all of the variables because there's a lot in this world that makes no sense, and you have to start breaking outside the box and spread your wings and start to look into areas that you may not have looked at before to try to understand more about what's really going on. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and I promise it won't take as long as it did to have you to come back. I apologize for that.
Oh, that's all good, brother. It's a pleasure to come on. I really love what you've done with the show, Mike. It's been really good to see you've taken it to the level that you have. You do great work, so good on you for that. I remember coming way back on in the real early days. It may have even been your first guest, I think. But it was really good to see. It's really good to see what you've done with it, and it is a really, really important issue. This issue, and people do need to get the word out to others and stop participating in this system. You know, we've got a long way to go if we want to get out of this mess, but we can do it if we do participate. So do get involved, and thanks so much for having me on, brother. It has been a great discussion, and happy to do it again any time.
Okay, Max. Have fun out on the West Coast and try to keep cool.
Yeah, good luck with that, I think.
And that concludes another Sage of Quay interview, and I hope you enjoyed the discussion as much as I did. Links to my guests' websites and social media are listed in the show notes below. And as always, I'd like to thank everyone for listening and visiting the blog. You can get to the blog by typing in sageofquayradio.blogspot.com or simply head over to our hub website at sageofquay.com. Also, if you get a moment, please visit laboroflovemusic.com to listen to my album, Leaving Dystopia. And remember, live in truth and always serve creation. It's really that simple. See everyone next week. Be safe, enjoy, and God bless.
I'm packing my bags, and I'm out of here. Riches to rags, can't live in fear. This place is surreal. Nobody cares. It has no feel, just blank stares. I'm tired of all the hate. I'm tired of all the dysfunction. I'm tired of being tired. I'm leaving dystopia. I'm not a slave, so please go away. I won't behave. I don't care what you say. I don't sleepwalk or crawl on my knees. And I don't sheep talk, so you can be pleased. I'm tired of all the hate. I'm tired of all the dysfunction. I'm tired of being tired. I'm leaving dystopia. relax. Can't live in fear. This place is surreal. Nobody cares. It has no feel. Just black.